Joining us now, he is the new head coach of the Cal Bears, fresh off a national championship as an associate head coach at Texas. He's been a D1 softball 2024 assistant coach of the year, and ironically, just recently just won the fan vote for hitter coach of the assistant coach hitter of the year in the Circle podcast here. Steve Singleton joining us for the first time here on In the Circle on D1 softball. How's that new title?
It's different. It feels great though. Feels great. It's an exciting opportunity ahead and an adventure and a challenge that I'm really looking forward to, feel ready for, and appreciate the intro. I did not know that I won the in the circle hitting assistant coach of the year, so thank you very much. And I always give a shout out to Coach Zaleski, who's still at Texas, because she does a great job with our hitters there too. So.
Kristen Zaleski does a great job there as well. Texas State. I'll mention her in a little bit. Yeah, that was the fan votes. They voted for you. And so let's just talk about this. What was this process like for you? Because your name has always been brought up anytime a job opens up as a hot name in the industry. But I know you were happy at Texas when we spoke last year in Orlando during the Texas UCF series. So just take us through this process as you went with Cal.
Yeah, they reached out to me during the summer and it was a situation that first off, one of the big factors is I'm from there. So I'm from about 15 minutes from campus. I grew up Cal Bear fan, going to basketball games, football games, baseball games. So, it's part of the fabric of, my life growing up. That was the big university that I knew of and kind of modeled off of wanting to go to college. And so it's always had a special place in my heart. So that factor was big. Professionally, I think that, we've done quite a bit here at Texas and, this experience, Coach White, this program, our other assistants, they've prepared me, I think, to be ready to take that next step. And so, I think you kind of have to evaluate year after year where you're at and what's working for you, what you may be ready to change. And, it felt like it was that time. It was that time to kind of take that next step. And there's never an easy time because you're right. I was very happy at Texas. The experience I've had over the last 6 years has been great. The relationships with staff, players, their families, support staff, it's deeply ingrained. It truly is family there. And so that's always hard to leave. There's never a good or easy time to do that. But, Cal and ADs, Jenny Simons O'Neill and Jay Larson, associate ADs, Gordon Bain and Josh Hummel, they all did an excellent job kind of getting me there, making this thing come to life and really making me feel like they're my new family, and they support me in the program in a way that I think we can be successful in the future.
Was it easier to leave Texas having won the national title and almost like, hey, we accomplished a mission here? Easier now than say maybe if you hadn't won a national. Did that make it a little easier to leave Texas for this
Yeah,
opportunity?
definitely, definitely. I think that it felt like the job wasn't left unfinished, and we've all, the classes before that didn't quite get to experience this and the group that did, we've all been pushing so hard and so long. And I think there would have been some emptiness, like something that just wasn't filled if we hadn't done that. And so that, not that it made it easy, but I think, looking at that group and being able to know, at least from the part that I gave them, like, you guys are good, you guys got this, and, I've told them already, as much as, I'm not necessarily rooting for them anymore. I'm not rooting against them. And if somebody's got to win it and it's not us, then it might as well be them again. So, yeah.
What are some things you learned from Mike White that you're going to apply now as a head coach? Because I'm sure I know in talking to him in the past, he's groomed you for this. For this, he knew this was going to happen at some point down the road. What did you learn from him, and what was his reaction once you took this job?
Yeah, I mean, Mike's been great. He's been instrumental in my development. I think one of the things that I've learned from him is, he comes prepared with information. He comes prepared with material. He sets the program standards and pillars of kind of what is going to happen, and then he allows his staff and his players to work freely under that. And so I never like to be micromanaged, and I don't plan on micromanaging my staff. I like to set concepts and standards of what we want to get done, and then let people work within those avenues however they need to. I've always said that I'm more of a artist than a scientist when it comes to this stuff. And so, things I've picked up from Mike are, being prepared with that type of stuff, being consistent with that type of information and messaging. I think that those big overarching concepts are very important. They set the tone for what your program's going to be and how it's going to operate. And then year to year, when we were at Texas, each team individually got to kind of be themselves and build their own that team mantra for that year, but it was always under the umbrella of certain things that weren't going to change. And so going into a new place, I plan on coming in and doing similar things, put our own stamp on it. But kind of overarching ideas and philosophies of what we do, who we are, how we're going to treat each other, how we're going to act on a daily basis. And then under that, now we can be ourselves, express ourselves. This team can be this team versus the next year's team. We saw that work and grow. We saw a culture kind of develop and become a championship culture, over the years that it wasn't always, it wasn't, and that's not a knock on us or the program. It just, where it was, and you had clashes of newcomers and people that were there and ideologies and new coaches coming in and out with, opportunities coming. And so it was just one of those situations where it took a little bit of time and consistency and getting a bunch of players that committed to the same message and the same messaging for 4 years and pass that along. And then before you know it, you have something where, a whole team is pulling for their pitcher because she's going through a tough time in her life, or, they want to do it for each other more than they want to do it for themselves. And those are the things that I got to witness that I want to be able to bring. And I see the importance of them in that team and in that chemistry aspect. And so this year is going to be a very foundational year. I think we are building a great stadium, but that means we are without a stadium because it's being built on the same footprint. And so, that piece already brings challenges. So we're gonna have an opportunity to get closer, to grow the culture, to set things up for the future, and I'm excited about that. And I'd say that that's the stuff that Mike and his leadership style has taught me over the years.
You got a future in podcasting. You still one of my thunder the questions about the stadium. I'm aware about the new stadium there. So with that in mind, that won't be available until 2027 to open. So do you know as of now where you will be playing home games in 2026? I know that's a journey. Stanford just went through this. They had to play at a football stadium for a year. What I'm sure that was discussed a little bit. What can you tell us about that?
It's in process.
Okay.
I don't have all the answers yet being new, but I know that it is being worked on by our admins right now. And that's stuff that, I've heard a few different options. I don't want to go out and
Sure.
say publicly what those are yet without having that pinned down. But I do know they're working on some different plans, potentially some different universities and colleges in the area to kind of use for ACC home games at least. I don't know that we'll try to pretend to have home games other than that. I think we'll just play true road games all year long and just be moving around facility wise. But don't hold me to that. If something changes and all of a
Sure.
sudden
No.
that's a makeshift home facility, I wouldn't put that past us. But yeah, it's a little bit up in the air right now. I know that this stuff isn't easy, but it's the sacrifice we're willing to make because the stadium looks incredible. I mean, from the renderings and then from being on the ground, talking to the people that are involved directly with the facilities and that project, it's going to be as good as there is on the West Coast.
No doubt. And that stadium's
Yeah,
been long overdue. So I know a lot of people are
yeah.
excited. Do you have a timeline when you think you'll have an answer on that? Because the only reason I ask that, because obviously that's going to be key for your team to have an idea of where you're going to play in case you're able to practice there, whatever. Is there a timeline when you think there'll be a resolution?
Yeah, I would say probably here in the next couple weeks before we
Okay.
get rolling practice wise and all that.
Sure.
But some of it may still be in the works if they're trying to work on maybe better options for
Sure.
us. But there are already practice options. We've got turf, multi-use fields, and things like that. Baseball may become an option if we want to get on some dirt. Use their cages. I think we're gonna have some temp cages and things like that. So, it's gonna be an interesting year. I remember back at Texas when the big indoor facility and building that houses our offices, locker room, indoor, when that was being built, We actually were on the first base side in the visitor locker room. The umpire locker room was our coach's office. We had a couple outdoor cages and, all amenities that were fine, but very below the standards of, what kids have come to expect now at Texas. And what I found from that process was that we got closer, we got tighter, um, we learned to be more grateful. And so I actually don't mind this experience. I think that right now, if we know that something great is coming on the other side of it, I think we can all lock in and be grateful for what is coming and kind of learn some things along the way.
Talk. I know you're working on the coaching staff as we speak. I don't
Yeah.
expect you to give me names. That being said, what's your goal? Do you have a goal in mind, a timeline on when your staff will be in place?
Yeah, and I'm close.
Okay.
I'm very close. I would say that it can be announced as soon as we can get some things pushed through. So
Okay.
yeah, we should be getting there in the next couple weeks. It just depends on the flexibility of people's schedules, getting them onboarded, things like that. But I'm excited. I'm excited when that gets announced. I don't want to, steal any of that thunder from Cal or from them. So I'm going to keep that tight-lipped for
Sure.
now. But very excited. I think we have some pieces in place that are going to be very good going forward and that have the opportunity to grow. One of the big things I looked at in hiring was people. Obviously, what people know and all the experience is outstanding. But given the time circumstances I was given with how late I was even hired, and then just, trying to get the right people to be a part of this building process and building the program that we want, character and that piece, the integrity piece is so much bigger for me than how much experience, how many times have they done something. I feel like you can teach people some of those skills. You can learn, gain experience. You can't necessarily change the human that's in there. And so relationships and connection are massive for me. I've seen how that works with teams. And so that's what I relied on. I relied on people that are really good connectors. They're going to grind on the recruiting side. They're going to work hard. They're going to work with energy. They aspire to do more than what we're doing right now. And so if they move on from me, then I've done my job, and so I want people that they have ambition and aspiration too, especially as we're all growing, because I'm growing as a head coach too. So while I'm learning, they're going to be learning, and I think the opportunity here right now is great because um, this year is going to be different and there's going to be challenges, but we're all going to get to grow and learn through those challenges. And the outlook is for the future. It's not a 1 year build where we have to be the best team in the country today. This team is going to start setting the foundation for the teams going forward. And, by no means does that not mean that we're going to be really competitive and go out there trying to win every time. We will. But I also think there's bigger things in play right now. So,
Now, it sounds to me basically you had names in mind then as you were going through this process. It sounds like you were prepared for this
yes,
possibility. Okay.
yes.
Can you answer this? Will you run the offense?
I will assist the offense.
Ooh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah. So
good.
I look at my skills. I'm a little Swiss Army knife. I can fill some holes and do some different things. So, I depending on the personnel, I can do different things. The person that I would like to have on at Cal, they are someone I trust to do the hitting. I look at myself more from the baseball setup side of things. That's just what I was always used to, where the manager isn't necessarily your pitching coach or your hitting coach.
Sure.
They're overseeing the whole game. They're overseeing team defense, situational defense, coaching the bases, how we run the bases, game IQ, game prep, scouting reports, and making sure we understand that. It's more how we play the game, and then let your pitching person be your technician, let your hitting person be your technician, let those be your connectors that are in the trenches with them. I mean, it's a lot of like what we did here when I was at Texas. And so I got to have autonomy in how we developed them, got them ready. I was their person. And then we went and we all played and we were on the same page. I see the value in that. And so, Yeah, the person I'm going to bring in there, I'm going to trust them to do that. Obviously, I can assist and help, and we'll have a lot of collaboration. But I want them to feel empowered to do their job.
Well, and fairness, and Texas. I know one of the things that was kind of cool in learning, talking to you and talking to Coach White. You and Kristen Zaleski collaborated on the offense in a lot of
Yes, we did.
ways, where she ran
Yes,
the short game. So I can imagine it's something similar there. I know you got to get going. Last question:
you're okay. You're
your
okay.
your family. I want to ask about your wife, who, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe played softball.
She did.
Uh, how has that helped you when you went going from baseball to softball and having your wife somebody that knows the game inside out?
Oh, it's helped a lot, to just have someone when even just when I come home, she watches all our games. She's at most of our games if she can make it. Um, just to bounce things off of from the perspective of someone who played, not even just another coach, but someone who's played at the Division I level, knows what it feels like to be going through the high times, the low times. Maybe if I'm reacting to a game or a situation in a certain way, she can kind of check me like, well, X, Y, and Z and kind of give me some perspective on it that I might not have, and so it's great. And then just, to even just talk the game and situations. I mean, she's a wealth of knowledge in her own. She's coached for 6 years at the Division III level. Coached summer collegiate league out here in the Lone Star League. Excuse me. And just won the championship actually this past year. So it's been great. It's been great to have, a partner in life, but then a partner in softball as well. So
She was a pitcher when she played,
she
I think.
was. Yeah,
All
she
right.
was a pitcher.
That's pretty amazing. And I'm sure all ever excited as well as coming to California, coming home there. Has it hit you that you're coming back in like a full circle moment for you?
A little bit, the outpouring of support, from the industry, from former players and parents and travel coaches, but also people from Oakland and the Bay Area that I grew up with, grew up around. It's been really positive, and it's made this hard time in transition and all that feel a little bit easier. You feel like you are truly going home to a place where people want you. They want to see you do well. They want to support you. They want to be a part of why you do well. And so, it's gonna be interesting trying to make sure I manage my time well enough to, keep some of that stuff, at an arm's length, but while also definitely embracing it because that's who I am. That's where I'm from. Those are the people and the places that have made me who I am today. So I like embracing that. And I think with the new stadium and with the new program, this new look version of the program going forward, we're going to need that support. And so I think it's going to be great to have those people feeling connected to the fabric of the program.
What was the message to the players you're inheriting there when you got to meet them?
Excitement, excitement, opportunity, I think for all of us, and just really, really looking forward to getting to work. I think that at the end of the day, we can have big visions and big goals, but a lot of it's just done on the daily. It's what you do consistently. And so I'm excited to meet them. They seemed excited to have me. And so, I can't wait for them to meet our staff. I can't wait for all of us to get out there and just get going. I think there's a lot of unknown right now. We have 15 newcomers, 8 returners. We're kind of an inexperienced squad. A lot of our veterans are coming from the outside in. And so a lot of us have a lot to learn, and so I think that it's hard to put my finger on what we will or won't be this year. I'm never going to count my teams out. And so, I'm excited. I see a lot of talent on our roster. I see some gritty players on our roster. I see pieces that are going to fit and going to help build for this year and the future. So,
Well, I know I speak for a lot of people. I'm excited for you this opportunity. I know it's a big deal coming home and being a head coach. I know it's a hectic time. You got a lot of obligations. You got to get ready to move. You got some other media obligations. But thank you so much for taking the time from this hectic schedule. Thanks for being cool, man. It was great talking to you last year and helping us out prepare for a broadcast. I'm sure we'll catch up more once you're settled in over there. But good luck, congrats again, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball.
awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it and appreciate the support. Look forward to getting with you in the future.